His Highness the Emir sends a cable of condolences and sympathy to the Egyptian president on the victims of the crime committed by the IS militants in Libya. The Council of Ministers hears a briefing about His Highness the Emir's visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the talks with the custodian of the two holy mosques. Kuwait denounces the shooting incidents in Copenhagen and North Carolina and warns against aggravation of acts of violence. And Egypt launches airstrikes against the so-called Islamic State in Libya hours after militants claimed mass beheading of 21 Egyptian Christian hostages. In our first item, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received at Sif Palace today morning His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable to His Excellency President Abdel Fattah Al-Sisi of the Arab Republic of Egypt, expressing sympathy and condolences to him and to the Egyptian people on the victims of the horrendous crime committed by the so-called IS militants in Libya who killed 21 Egyptian citizens. His Highness expressed Kuwait's strong condemnation of this criminal act, which is not related to any religion and completely contravenes with all faith and legislations. His Highness the Emir also renewed Kuwait's complete rejection of all sorts of terrorism, as well as its support to the international community in its war against terrorism. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable to His Excellency the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah Al-Sisi, expressing his deep condolences and sympathy with the victims of the ugly crime committed by the so-called IS militants in Libya who killed 21 Egyptian citizens. His Highness Sheikh Jabal Mubarak Al-Hamd Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable of condolences and sympathy. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to the Serbian President Tomislav Nikolic on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to the Serbian President Tomislav Nikolic on the occasion of his country's National Day. And His Highness Sheikh Jabal Mubarak Al-Hamd Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to Her Excellency the Lithuanian President Dalia Grybauskaitė on the occasion of her country's National Day. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to Her Excellency the Lithuanian President Dalia Grybauskaitė on the occasion of her country's National Day. And His Highness Sheikh Jabal Mubarak Al-Hamd Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received this morning His Excellency the Minister of Education and Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Badr Hamad Al-Aisa. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received at Sif Palace this morning His Excellency the Ambassador of Nepal to the State of Kuwait, Yaja Bahadur Hamal, on the occasion of assuming his post as an ambassador to the country. His Highness the Crown Prince also received at Sif Palace the Ambassador of Hungary to the State of Kuwait, Mayai Bayer, on the occasion of assuming his post as the ambassador of his country to Kuwait. The meetings were attended by His Excellency the Under-Secretary of His Highness the Crown Prince Diwan for Protocols and Ceremonies, Sheikh Mbarak Sabah Al-Salam Lahmoud Sabah. The acting National Assembly Speaker Adel Al-Jaral Al-Khrafi received at his office today Chairman of the German Parliamentary Friendship Group in the Arab world, Michael Henrich, and his accompanying delegation. Discussion in the meeting covered bilateral relations and means of boosting them, besides the latest regional and international development. The meeting was attended by Chairman of the Kuwaiti German Friendship Group, Askar Al-Anisi, and the National Assembly members Kamil Al-Awadi, Faris Al-Ataibi, and Muhammad Al-Barrak. The Council of Ministers met in a weekly session at Sif Palace today under the chairmanship of His Highness Sheikh Jabir al-Mubarak al-Hamad al-Subah, the Prime Minister. The Cabinet was informed of the visit of His Highness the Emir and his high-ranking official delegation to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where he met the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. The visit came within the framework of the existing brotherly ties between the two countries and their desire to conduct continual consultations regarding all issues and the ways to further bolster the Gulf Cooperation Council. Talks during the visit also covered the latest developments on the regional and international arenas, besides the coordination of the two countries' efforts to consolidate peace and stability in the region. In a statement after the meeting, the Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah al-Mubarak al-Subah, said the Cabinet expressed deep satisfaction over the positive outcome of this visit, which reflected the strong brotherly ties between the two countries, as well as the unity of their goals and common destiny. He added that the Council of Ministers also took note of the message to His Highness the Emir from the President of Albania, inviting His Highness to pay an official visit to his country. The Council of Ministers was also briefed on the two messages to His Highness the Prime Minister from the Prime Minister of Mongolia and Prime Minister of Albania. The Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs went on to say that the Cabinet was briefed by the Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister Sheikh Subah Khalid al-Hamad al-Subah on the recent visit to Kuwait by the Foreign Minister of Sudan, Mr. Ali Ahmed Karti, and the outcome of the second session of the Kuwaiti-Sudanese Joint Committee. Talks between the two foreign ministers focused on ways of boosting the existing fraternal ties between the two countries in different domains, besides coordination of their stances with regard to regional and international issues. The First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister also spoke during the meeting about the recent visit to Kuwait by the Deputy Premier and Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation in the Kingdom of Cambodia, during which the talks focused on bilateral cooperation. The Council of Ministers welcomed the upcoming visit to Kuwait by the Palestinian Prime Minister Dr. Rami Al-Hamadallah and his accompanying delegation. The Minister of Social Affairs and Labour and Minister of State for Planning and Development, Hind Sabih Baraki Sabih, conducted a presentation during the meeting about the semi-annual follow-up report of the Annual Development Plan 2014-2015 and the futuristic visions and strategic objectives of the development in the state of Kuwait. The report was designed to monitor and evaluate the implementation of the development plan and programs as being implemented by the governmental agencies. The Council of Ministers asked the Minister of Social Affairs and Labour and Minister of State for Planning and Development to submit this report to the National Assembly. The Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs said the Minister of Public Works and Minister of Electricity and Water, Minister Abdulaziz Ibrahim, spoke during the session about the sudden electricity failure in parts of Kuwait. He elaborated on the technical causes of this power cut and explained the measures which were taken by the ministry to restore power as soon as possible. An official source at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed today Kuwait's condemnation and denunciation of the shooting which targeted a cultural center and the Knesset in the Danish capital Copenhagen, as well as the shooting in North Carolina, USA, in which several innocent people were killed or wounded. The source reasserted Kuwait's position, which calls for the respect of all religions and keeping away from committing offense against religious icons. The source also rejected instigation against Muslims in those countries. The official source warned against aggravation of criminal acts that fuels violence, leading to catastrophic consequences affecting stability and peace of many countries. He pointed out to Kuwait's insistence on rejecting all sorts of terrorism and its call for rallied international efforts in uprooting terrorism from its core and freeing the world from it. The Egyptian government had previously declared a 7-day period of mourning as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi addressed the nation, saying that his government reserved the right to seek retaliation for the apparent beheadings of 21 Egyptian Christians. Hessa Khalid has more in this report.
Egypt says it has bombed targets belonging to the so-called Islamic State group in Libya, hours after the militants published a video showing the apparent beheading of 21 Egyptians in Libya. The kidnapped Egyptian workers, all Coptic Christians, were seized in December and January from the coastal town of Sirte in eastern Libya under the control of the IS. The Egyptian army said in a statement today that it has carried out airstrikes targeting camps, training sites, and weapon storage areas in Libya. Earlier, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was quoted as saying that Egypt had the right to respond in the appropriate way in relation against those inhuman criminal killers. He added in a televised address that Egypt and the whole world are in a fierce battle with extremist groups carrying extremist ideology and sharing the same goals. President al-Sisi has said in the past that militants in Libya are a danger not only to Egypt but also to the Middle East. As a result, Egypt has provided assistance to the Libyan government and Libyans since numerous militia groups have battled for control since 2011. Today, Libya's Air Force also announced it had launched strikes in the eastern city of Darna, an extremist stronghold that was taken over by an IS affiliate last year. Meanwhile, the international community expressed strong condemnation of the dreadful act as members of the UN Security Council strongly condemned the killing. French President François Hollande and his Egyptian counterpart called for the United Nations Security Council to meet over the security situation in Libya and take new measures against the threat of terrorism.
The Middle East Quartet envoy Tony Blair on Sunday warned during a visit to the Gaza Strip of another eruption in the Palestinian enclave devastated from last summer's conflict with Israel. Majlou Haidi has more in this report from Gaza.
Tony Blair, Middle East peace envoy, arrived in the Gaza Strip on an unannounced visit early Sunday. On a tour that continued for several hours, Tony Blair inspected the effects of the last summer war and met with Palestinian Unity Government ministers and officials from the United Nations. The former British minister entered Gaza from Israel's Erez crossing.
I'm extremely concerned that if you leave Gaza in the state it's in, you'll have another eruption and violence, and then we're back into a further catastrophe. So we've got to stop that. And it's the politics that is getting in the way of the reconstruction. So whether it's the internal Palestinian political issue or Israel or the relationship with Egypt or the international community, we've all got a responsibility, if the right assurances are given, to make this thing work and to get the reconstruction moving and moving fast, to get a private sector back up on its feet again and give people some sense here that things are going to change.
After issuing a stern warning of eruption and violence, Blair called on Israel to open its crossings and urged Gaza to open up and reconnect with the outside world. He also stressed that Palestinian reconciliation could only happen if it's based on peace.
It's clear that Blair's visit to Gaza is aimed at pushing the region into hard choices. They believe the reconstruction of Gaza won't happen unless resistance factions stop fighting Israel so that the donor countries send their money without fear of another conflict. Reconstruction of Gaza needs many serious efforts. We lack the ground.
The envoy of the United Nations, the European Union, Russia and the United States, the so-called Quartet, also visited Bahraini school in the city, which provides shelter to hundreds of displaced Palestinian families. These people lost their homes in the war and so far received nothing more than little pledges from donor countries to reconstruct their homes. Majority of internally displaced people are still living in tragic conditions. Blair described the stagnation in reconstruction as a crime. Tony Blair's visit signals the need for a new approach to Gaza and peace. During his visit, Blair also asked Hamas leaders if they are prepared to accept the Palestinian state within the 1967 borders. There are no reports, however, what reply he got in return, as the political atmosphere continues to be shrouded in uncertainty. Majlou Haidi, Kuwait TV, Gaza.
The United Nations Security Council yesterday adopted a resolution demanding Houthi rebels to relinquish their control of Yemen's government. The rebels have taken over Yemen's central and nearly half of its provinces. The resolution, co-sponsored by 10 countries, including the United States, stated immediate and unconditional withdrawal of Houthis' control from government institutions. But the resolution approved by all 15 council members at an emergency meeting does not act under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, which would allow it to be militarily enforced. Arab countries have been pressing for the use of military force against what they call the rebel group's illegitimate seizure of power. With wide participation, the Kuwait's second FIDIC conference kicked off at the Radisson Blu Hotel to discuss the recent engineering and housing topics. The three-day event hosted many expert speakers from the Gulf Cooperation Council states who gathered to deliver and share their expertise with the audience. Hiba Abdurrahman was there and has this report.
Kuwait's second FIDIC conference recently kicked off with the participation from many local, Gulf and regional experts in the field. The annual event discussed and tackled the best practices of the Gulf Cooperation Council GCC FIDIC contracts.
This is a yearly event about FIDIC contracts in the Gulf region. Every year, professionals from all over the Gulf countries come and gather here to discuss what is new about the FIDIC contracts, what problems arise from using those contracts in the last year, and so on and so on. So it's a yearly professional meeting for professionals from all over the Gulf.
This conference is talking about the FIDIC and the use of it in our region. And we used to have a problem when the booming of the construction in for example UAE and all the Gulf. Then we had a problem with a lot of infrastructure methods and need to be imported from outside, and we need a lot of outside companies and foreign companies to do this job, which has the experience on such fields. So we had to go in order to to make them accept coming to our region. They insisted on having such contracts, so they know that they are getting what they are doing, and they have to be treated fairly. So that's why we start adopting such contracts like FIDIC and some others. But the most suitable for us was the FIDIC. We have some other institutes who have a lot of different kind of contracts, but this was the best. We thought it's the best for our region. That's why we adapted this one, and we started implemented in a way of changing some parts of it, which to suit our region and to suit our laws and regulations in the region.
The event took place over 3 days and discussed many topics and issues, such as the legal systems, choosing the appropriate projects, the engineering systems, as well as studying the appropriate contracts according to the type of the project. The 3-day event is followed by a workshop concentrating on 5 different and critical axes, which would help in implementing the theories that were discussed during the conference. From Radisson Blu Hotel, I am Hiba Abdurrahman reporting for English News.
In a final item, we move to the local business news, where Kuwait Stock Exchange ended today's trading in the red zone as the weight index lost 0.99 points, recording 450.71 points. The price index dropped 8.42 points, reaching 6,681.52 points, and the KSX 15 shed 3.59 points, settling at 1,097.91. The number of trades amounted to 4,914 transactions, worth about 27 million Kuwaiti dinars, with around 187 million shares changing hands. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. Well, with that, we conclude our news bulletin. Thank you for joining us. Have a pleasant time. I'm Maham Tawa. Before we go, we remind you once again of our main top stories. Have a pleasant time and good night. His Highness the Emir sends a cable of condolences and sympathy to the Egyptian president on the victims of the crime committed by the IS militants in Libya. The Council of Ministers hears a briefing about His Highness the Emir's visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the talks with the custodian with the 2 holy mosques. Kuwait denounces the shooting incidents in Copenhagen and North Carolina and warns against aggravation of acts of violence. And Egypt launches airstrikes against the so-called Islamic State in Libya, hours after militants claimed mass beheadings of 21 Egyptian Christian hostages.